It started with a file, a single brown folder tucked deep inside the locked cabinet of St. Mary's foster home. The label read, Case Number 47 Confidential. 17-year-old Lila Grant wasn't supposed to find it. She was just cleaning the office as punishment for sneaking out past curfew. But the moment she saw her name on that file, everything she thought she knew about her life, her parents, her past, her foster mother, began to fall apart. Before that night, Lila believed the worst thing about St. Mary's was the silence, the quiet hallways, the cold dinners, the way Mrs. Whitmore, the head of the foster home, smiled too much when social workers came around, but barely looked at them once the doors closed. But the silence was hiding something. This is Untold Justice, where pain speaks, lies crumble, and the forgotten finally fight back. If you believe truth should never be buried, like this video, share it, and subscribe. Because what Lila's about to discover could happen anywhere. Even in your city. Lila waited until the house was asleep. Rain tapped against the window as she crept back into the office. She didn't know why, just that she had to know what was inside that file. Inside were pages of reports, sealed letters, and one photo that made her hands tremble. A picture of herself at age 5, standing beside a woman she didn't recognize, with bruises on her arms and fear in her eyes. The note attached read, Subject should not remember the incident. Continue medication. Transfer to secondary foster system by March. Her breath caught. Medication? Incident? Transfer? None of it made sense, until she heard footsteps behind her. Mrs. Whitmore stood in the doorway, her floral robe barely tied, eyes sharp as knives. Couldn't sleep, dear, she asked, her tone too calm. Lila froze, hiding the file behind her back. I just needed water. Mrs. Whitmore smiled that same unsettling smile. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. Some things in this house are better left untouched. Then she reached out, not for Lila, but for the file, and that's when Lila ran. She hid in the laundry room, her heart pounding. Every creak of the old house sounded like footsteps. Every shadow in the hallway looked like Mrs. Whitmore's floral robe. That night, Lila decided she wasn't staying. She'd run before, but this time she wasn't running from trouble. She was running toward the truth. She tucked the file into her jacket and slipped out the back door into the rain. She made it as far as the bus station before she saw him. Caleb, a 20-year-old volunteer who'd once taught her how to draw. He'd left St. Mary's months ago after an argument with Mrs. Whitmore. Lila? He asked, seeing her soaked and shivering. What happened? She hesitated, then handed him the file. When he opened it, his face went pale. Where did you get this? He whispered. From her office, Lila replied. Why? Do you know what it means? He looked around nervously. You shouldn't have seen this. They said the files were destroyed. Who's they? Before he could answer, a car pulled up across the street, headlights cutting through the rain. Caleb's eyes widened. Get down, he yelled. Bullets shattered the bus stop glass. Lila ducked, clutching the file to her chest as Caleb pulled her behind a vending machine. When the car sped off, silence fell again, heavy and cold. Caleb stood shaking. They know you have it. Who are they? She screamed. He looked at her with something between guilt and fear. They're the people funding St. Mary's. They call it a foster program, but it's a cover. Lila blinked, confused. A cover for what? For testing, experiments. They've been using some of the kids for years. Her world tilted. You're lying. I wish I was, Caleb whispered. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. This has proof. Names, payments, everything. Your file connects them all. She stared at him, stunned. Why didn't you stop it? He swallowed hard. Because once, I helped them. Lila's chest tightened. You what? I thought it was research. I didn't know what they were doing until it was too late. Tears blurred her vision. So all those kids who disappeared, Caleb nodded. They were moved, or worse. Lila backed away, clutching the file like it could protect her. You were supposed to protect us. I'm trying now, he shouted, but you have to trust me. They'll come for you next. That night, as dawn crept over the city, Lila made a decision. She couldn't go back to St. Mary's. She couldn't trust the system, not the one that promised to protect her, and certainly not the one that used her. So she wrote one final note and left it in the bus station locker. For every child they silenced, I'll speak louder. For every lie they wrote, I'll tell the truth. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running away. She was fighting back. Because sometimes justice doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts with someone brave enough to open a locked file. As Lila boarded the morning bus to Chicago, she glanced out the window. Across the street, Mrs. Whitmore stood watching, her floral robe replaced by a black coat. She held her phone to her ear and said calmly, "She has the file." Lila turned back toward the road, unaware that the driver who just started the engine wasn't wearing a bus company uniform. Lila's fingers clutched the seat in front of her as the bus rumbled down the highway, her heart still echoing the words Mrs. Whitmore had whispered through the phone. She has the file. The words looped like static in her head. Every mile away from St. Mary's felt like freedom and a countdown. But freedom, she was learning, always had a cost, and sometimes it's written in the fine print of your own life. This isn't just one girl's escape. It's every child who ever trusted the system that was built to break them. Every silence that bought another secret. And every foster home that promised love, but delivered control. The bus hummed under the gray morning sky. Lila's clothes were still damp from the rain. Her eyes drifted to the driver, his reflection cold, unreadable in the rearview mirror. She thought about Caleb, his warning. "They'll come for you next." She reached for the flash drive he'd given her, still warm from her palm. It was small, but it felt heavier than truth. Then the driver spoke. "Heading to Chicago?" He smiled. "That's a long ride. You traveling alone?" Her gut twisted. Something about his tone didn't feel right. She looked around. Empty seats. No other passengers. Then she noticed it. A faint symbol tattooed on his wrist. The same one she'd seen on Mrs. Whitmore's stationery. Her pulse quickened. "Actually," she stammered, "can you stop? I forgot something back at the station." He didn't slow down. Instead, he turned up the radio. Static filled the air. That's when she realized the bus wasn't heading north. The highway signs flashed South Ridge. She wasn't escaping. She was being taken back. She gripped the flash drive tighter. Her mind raced. No phone, no signal, no one around. Then a familiar voice came from behind her seat. "Lila!" She spun around. "Caleb." "What? How did you—" "I followed you," he whispered. "I had to make sure you were safe." Her relief melted into confusion. "Then why didn't you stop him?" He nodded toward the driver. "Because he's not the threat right now." "What are you talking about?" Caleb leaned closer, his voice trembling. "They changed the program after I left. It's not just about you anymore. They've started something new." The driver pulled into a dirt road, headlights cutting through fog. Ahead stood an abandoned warehouse, surrounded by floodlights and wire fences. Caleb turned to her, desperate. "They're tracking the files. Anyone who reads them becomes a target. It's not about what you know. It's about what they made you forget." Her stomach dropped. "What did they make me forget?" He hesitated. "You weren't placed at St. Mary's by accident." "What?" "You were part of the first group, the control subjects." Her world tilted again. "You're lying." "I wish I was," he said softly. "They tested memory suppression on you. That's why you can't remember your real mother." Lila's heart stopped. She remembered the photo in the file, the bruised little girl beside a woman she didn't recognize. "That woman," she whispered. "She was my mother?" Caleb nodded. "She tried to expose them. They called it a breakdown. They took you away to make her disappear quietly." Lila's breath broke into sobs. "And you helped them?" "I didn't know, Lila. I swear I didn't know what they were doing until it was too late." The bus came to a stop. Mrs. Whitmore stepped out from the shadows, now dressed in a dark coat, her usual warmth replaced by authority. "Well done, Caleb," she said calmly. Lila froze. Caleb stood, shaking his head. "No. You said no one would get hurt." Mrs. Whitmore smiled faintly. "You believe that?" She gestured toward Lila. Two men stepped from behind the warehouse carrying black cases. Lila backed away. "You're not taking me." Mrs. Whitmore tilted her head. "Oh, sweetheart, we already have you." Lila darted toward the trees, her feet slipping in the mud. She heard shouting, footsteps. Caleb yelling her name, and then headlights. A car screeched in front of her. A woman stepped out, dark hair, tan coat, a badge flashing under the rain. "Lila Grant," she said firmly. "Detective Jordan Reyes. You're safe now." Lila gasped, trembling. "How did you find me?" Jordan glanced at the bus, then at Mrs. Whitmore's men. "Because you weren't the only one looking for answers." She turned toward Mrs. Whitmore. "It's over." But Mrs. Whitmore just smiled. "You think you've won?" Two men stepped from behind the warehouse carrying black cases. Lila backed away. "You're not taking me." Mrs. Whitmore tilted her head. "Oh, sweetheart, we already have you." Lila darted toward the trees, her feet slipping in the mud. She heard shouting, footsteps, Caleb yelling her name, and then headlights. A car screeched in front of her. A woman stepped out, dark hair, tan coat, a badge flashing under the rain. "Lila Grant," she said firmly. "Detective Jordan Reyes. You're safe now." Lila gasped, trembling. "How did you find me?" Jordan glanced at the bus, then at Mrs. Whitmore's men. "Because you weren't the only one looking for answers." She turned toward Mrs. Whitmore. "It's over." But Mrs. Whitmore just smiled. "You think you've won?" She pointed to the warehouse. "Check the basement, then tell me who you're really protecting." Inside the warehouse, Lila followed Detective Jordan with shaking hands. The walls were lined with broken computers, medical tables, and files marked with children's names. Dozens of names, hundreds of lives. Lila picked up one, case number 48, Caleb Reyes. Her eyes widened. "Reyes," she whispered. Jordan turned. "That's my last name." They locked eyes. "Caleb is my brother." Lila's breath caught. Outside, they heard engines roar. More cars approaching. Caleb's voice echoed from the darkness. "Jordan, you don't understand. They're not after her anymore." Jordan raised her gun. "Then who are they after?" Caleb stepped into the light, tears streaming down his face. "They're after you." The warehouse lights flickered, and the screen cut to black. If you believe the truth can't stay buried forever, like, share, and subscribe. Comment below, what would you do if you discovered your entire childhood was a lie? Part 2 of the Foster Home Files drops soon, and this time, no one's safe.